Hello my loves, Tony here from TL Yarn Crafts and welcome to another fun and free crochet tutorial. I am beyond thrilled to finally introduce you to the Bernie Trio. Skinny scarves have been holding down the fashion scene for a few years now, and at this point, they're officially a closet staple. With the Bernie Trio, you've got the perfect option for every vibe. Rock the kerchief for a playful all-day look, wrap up in the scarf to keep the autumn chill at bay, or make a statement with the shawl, the dramatic piece that instantly levels up any casual outfit. And if you're brand new to crochet, don't worry one bit. This entire project is 100% beginner friendly. To follow along, grab the free pattern from my blog or the printable PDF version from my shop. Links to both of those resources are down in the description. This project is part of Crochet Academy, which is my free Learn to Crochet program that has graduated over 40,000 makers. We're celebrating 5 amazing years of the program, and you can find all of the past lessons as well as some limited edition merch over in my shop. Links to those also down in the description. Before we dive in, pretty please do me a little favor, hit that like button and then mosey on over to the subscribe. I am dangerously close to 1 million subs and I can't get there without you. Reaching that milestone means I'll be able to share the joy of crochet with even more people, and I would love for you to be part of that journey. Please join the TLYC family and let's keep stitching together. Now with all that business out of the way, let's talk materials. All right, y'all, let's talk Bernie Scarf Trio supplies. Now, we are working with 3 different sizes, so that means we're gonna need 3 different amounts of yarn. Now for our first size, the smallest size, which is 45 inches long by 5 inches wide, we will need just 1 skein of our yarn Woolies DK. This is a lovely, what's the combination here? 80% acrylic, 20% wool. Feels really, really nice. If you're used to Lion Brand's Woolies, which is a worsted weight, you're gonna love Woolies DK. It literally feels exactly the same, comes in great colors, and it's just a little bit lighter weight. Perfect for something like this small little kerchief. So you'll need just about 45 or so yards, a little bit less than 1 skein to complete the kerchief size. Now for the scarf size, you're going to need 1 full skein of this yarn. So I specifically designed this to use a full skein, which uses 230-ish yards. You'll have like a very small amount left over, so it's very important to make sure that you achieve gauge, or you're not gonna have enough yarn for the border. Then for the shawl version, which is 85 inches long and 11 inches wide, you're going to need 2 skeins of your Woolies DK, or about 340 total yards of DK weight yarn. So depending on your size, you're gonna need different amounts of yarn. 1 skein for the kerchief and the scarf, 2 skeins for the shawl. In addition to the yarn, you're also going to need a 4.5mm crochet hook, a tape measure, tapestry needle, a pair of scissors, and locking stitch markers. These are optional, but you'll see throughout the pattern that they really do help a whole lot, especially when we're going through our increase section, so you can know where your increases are and how many you've made so far. So go ahead and collect your supplies, meet me back here, and we're gonna jump into this kerchief. For the sake of clarity, I'm gonna be using a slightly heavier weight yarn and a larger hook for this tutorial. Today, I'm using Lion Brand's Lazy Days, which is a lovely chainette yarn, and this is the colorway Surf Spray. So to start things off with our kerchief, we're going to grab our first color, whatever you choose for that to be, make a slip knot, place that on your hook, and we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. To start, we're gonna do a few setup rows and then get into our increase section. Why don't you get a little bit closer, babe, so you can really see what I'm doing here. So we're gonna start in the second chain from the hook. So the loop on our hook does not count as a stitch. Here is our first chain. This is our second chain from the hook. And in that second chain from the hook, we're gonna place a single crochet. From here, we're going to chain 1 and then single crochet in the last chain. So this one here. So we're gonna skip this chain, single crochet in the last. There we go. There's row 1 done already. We have a single crochet, a chain 1, and a single crochet. Now we can chain 1, turn our work, and then single crochet in this first single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet in the last single crochet, which is right here. So we're just gonna grab both of those loops and single crochet here. Wonderful. So that's row 2. We're gonna do that for 3 more rows. So that's row 2, chain 1 and turn, single in the first, chain 1, single in the last. So that's row 3, chain 1 and turn. Row 4, single in the first stitch, so this one right here at the base of the chain, chain 1, single in this last single crochet here. So we can see our chain is here, the last single crochet of the row is right here. So that's row 4. And then for row 5, chain 1, turn, single in the first stitch, chain 1, single in the last stitch. Wonderful. Chain 1, turn our work, and now we're on row 6. For row 6, we're going to single in the first stitch, chain 1, and then we're going to increase in this last stitch. And what that means is we're going to single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet again in that same stitch right here. So now we've gone from 2 single crochets in our rows to 3. All right. Now for rows 7 through 13, we're going to chain 1, single in this first stitch, chain 1, single in the next single crochet, and I can tell it's a single crochet because I've got a little V here on the front. So we're going to single in the next single crochet, chain 1, and then single in the last single crochet. Again, I can see the little V here, so I'm going to single in this last stitch. So that's row 7. Here's 8, chain 1, single in the single, chain 1, single in the next single, chain 1, single in the last single, chain 1. So that's 8. Here's 9. Here's 10. Here's 11. Here's 12. And one more row makes 13. Lovely. So this is what it looks like so far. If we look at our original sample, that's about what it looks like as well. This one does have a border on it, but you can see we're on the right track. So now let's do row 14 together. So I did my chain 1. I'm going to turn my work, single in this first stitch. So we've got our chain 1 here. Right at the base of that chain is our first stitch. So we're going to work under both loops of that stitch for a single crochet. Chain 1, single in the next single crochet, chain 1, and then we're going to do another increase. Remember that the increase is single 1, chain 1, and single 1 again. And now I'm going to start placing my markers. I find it much easier to place markers on my increases to be able to identify them than trying to guess later on in the pattern. So I'm just going to put a marker on that last single crochet that I just made to mark that increase. So that's row 14. Now I'm going to do rows 15 through 21, which are just the even rows. So chain 1, single in the next single crochet, which is right here. Chain 1, single in the next single crochet, chain 1, single in the next one, chain 1, single in the next one. So you can kind of see what's happening here. We've got these even rows in between, and then we have these increases where we increase in the last stitch. So we start to get this really beautiful texture emerging, this really lovely, kind of like, I don't know, it's got like a floral look to me almost, like a tulip or something. These rows built onto each other, separated by increases every now and then. So that was row 15. Let's go 16. 17. So just chain 1 and single in each single. 18, 19, 20, and 21. Very soothing, very relaxing. You just got to keep an eye on which row you're on. But those stitch markers help a lot. They help us orient ourselves, right? Chain 1, and now we can turn our work. Now we have the first 21 rows of our setup. We started down here, and we're slowly increasing in these steps. And we have these rows in between where the stitches are work even, so we're just working stitch for stitch. No increases, no decreases in between, and then we have these increase rows every now and then. So when we get into the increase section, which is an 8-row repeat, it works like this. Here's row 1. So single in the first single crochet, chain 1, and single in the next single crochet until we get to the last single crochet. So we'll single in this one, chain 1, single in this one, chain 1, and now we're at our last single crochet right here. I can see the 2 V's on the top, so I know that this is my stitch right here. And this is what I'll be working down into. And in that last stitch, we need to do an increase. So single 1, chain 1, and single 1. I'm going to put a locking stitch marker on that one. Fantastic. And now I'll chain 1, and for the next 7 rows, so row 2 through 8, I'm just going to work even. So remember, that's single in the stitch at the base of the chain, chain 1, single in the next single crochet, chain 1, single in the next single crochet, chain 1, and so on until I get to the end of the row. So now we've gone to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets in each row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we increase 1 single crochet with each increase. So that was row 2 of the repeat. Let's do row 3. Chain 1, turn, single in the first stitch, chain 1, single in the next, and so on, all the way across the row. Chain 1 and turn. So that was row 1, 2, 3. Here's 4. Here's 5. Here's 6. Almost there. Here's 7. And one more makes 8. So this is row 8 of the 8-row repeat. So we can see that we're just continuing in the same pattern that we established on our setup rows. So we have an increase and then a series of even stitches. So an increase happened here, and then we just worked each single for each single separated by a chain 1. Lovely. So we can see that we're slowly, very gradually increasing to get to the width that we need. And if we take a look at our sample here, same thing happens. We slowly increase until we get to the center, which is here. So for our kerchief, we're going to continue working in our increase rows until we have 12 single crochets here along our working row. So we're going to do this 7 more times. Now keep in mind that this marker right here was from the setup rows. This marker is actually the first one of our increase rows. So this is the first repeat of our increase rows. We need to do this 7 more times. So I would encourage you to just pull out 7 locking stitch markers and continue in pattern until you've used all of your stitch markers. And remember that your section ends with these 7 even rows, not with the increase. This is the first row of the repeat, and this is the remainder of it. So keep working until you have 12 stitches across your working row. I'm gonna work until I have a little bit less. I'm the teacher, I get to cut a couple of corners, you know what I'm saying? So then you can join me back in here and we're gonna work on the decrease rows together. All right, would you look at that? It looks so pretty. Let me bring you a little bit closer, right? So what we've got going here is we started down here and we worked our repeats all the way up. So you should have 12 single crochets across your working row. I have a little bit less, but don't worry about that count right now because we're gonna move into the decrease rows. Now, if you're following along with your markers, you should have 8 total markers here. And now we're going to go to the other side and you can use markers on your decrease rows to keep count of where you are as well. Okay, so now we're moving on to our decrease rows, and just remember, of course, you had 7 rows work even in between here. So now we're going to move into row 1 of our decrease row. So I did my chain 1 already, and now I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to single crochet in this first single crochet right here at the base of my chain. Chain 1, single in the next single, chain 1, and we're going to do that until we get to the last 2 single crochets. So continuing to work in that same stitch pattern, and instead of stopping when we have 1 single crochet left, we'll stop when we have 2 left. And here we go. I've got 1 right here and 1 right here. So now, after my chain 1, I'm going to work these 2 stitches together. So single crochet 2 together. So let me show you how that's done. I'm going to insert into the first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Keep that loop on your hook. Insert into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. 3 loops on my hook. I'm now going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops together. So it now turns 2 stitches into 1 stitch. And I'm going to put a locking stitch marker onto this stitch, just so I don't lose it. Now from here, I'm going to chain 1, turn, and I'm going to work in my even rows again for rows 2 through 8. So this is row 2, just jumping right back into that same stitch pattern we've been doing in between our increases. And remember, it's just chain 1, single in the next single, chain 1, single in the next single. At the end of the row, we turn, single in the single, chain 1, single in the single. It's a very comfortable, cozy repeat that you don't have to think about too hard. And honestly, the stitch markers really make this a very mindful project because you just don't have to think a lot, okay? So we're gonna continue that. I'm gonna put the rest of my 8 rows here. Join me back here. We'll do 1 more set of decreases together. So here we go. I've got my decrease here and then the remainder of my rows for my decrease repeat. And we're going to do another decrease row together. Okay. So remember, it starts off with the chain 1, single in that first stitch, chain 1, single in the next single, chain 1, and we're going to repeat that until we have just 2 stitches left. Single in the next single, chain 1, single in the next single, chain 1. And what you're looking for are these little V's here. Those designate our single crochet stitches, and I have 2 of them left. So I'm going to pull up a loop in the next single crochet, pull up a loop in the one after that, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and that gives us our decrease. And once again, I'm going to put a locking stitch marker on there. Just pop it in like that, close it up, and now we can continue. So you're going to want to work in your decrease rows until we have 3 single crochets along our working row. So clearly we have much more than that, so I've got a little way to go. You keep working on yours as well. Meet me back here when you have 3 single crochets left on your working row, and we'll move into the ending rows. Alrighty, we are back, and now we can really see the shape of what we've got going on here. And if we fold this in half and kind of line up our markers, we'll see that we're creating 2 identical halves to this scarf, just worked end to end. It's coming together beautifully and we are almost done. So I'm going to pop my hook back in here and let's get into our ending rows. So the ending rows are pretty straightforward. We're going to start with a chain 1, turn our work. Keep in mind we've got 3 single crochets along this working row, 1, 2, and 3. So now we're going to single crochet in this first stitch right here at the base of the chain, followed by a chain 1, and then we're going to work these last 2 stitches together. So pull up a loop in the first single crochet, and then pull up a loop in the last one, yarn over, and pull through all 3. Beautiful. Chain 1 and turn. And now for rows 2, 3, 4, and 5, we're going to work evenly across. So single in the first, chain 1, single in the next. So that's row 2. Here's row 3. Perfect. Turn for row 4. And one more time for row 5. There we go. Now that we've completed all of our stitching on the body of our shawl, we're ready to move on to the border. So at this point, we're not going to turn our work. Instead, we're just going to chain 1 and rotate to work along this bottom edge. Now, of course, to work along this bottom edge, I have to take out these markers, so I'll do that now. With all of my markers removed, I can now rotate to work along this bottom edge. So we're just going to single crochet into each row end. So the first row end is this single crochet right here. So I'm actually just going to work around this stitch. I'm not going to split this stitch and place my single crochet. Next row is right here. So we've kind of already got a hole. So we'll use that to our advantage. A single goes there. Next one is this stitch, single there, single in the hole, single around this stitch, single in the hole, and so on. So we're going to continue by making a single crochet in each row end all the way along this bottom edge. I am approaching the end of this bottom border here, and as you can see, it just really cleans things up so nicely. So this is the top. This is kind of what it used to look like, and now we've got this lovely clean line on the bottom, which I just love that. It really adds some polish, a nice little frame to the project. So now we're ready to chain 1 and work along my starting chains here. So we'll want to single crochet 3 together over 3 stitches of that chain. So we're just going to insert our hook wherever feels natural. For 1, pull up a loop, grab that next chain. For 2, pull up a loop and grab this last chain here. For 3, pull up a loop, 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 4, just to close that up. Now we can chain 1 and rotate to work along this top edge. And we're going to do this top edge just like we did this bottom edge, working 1 stitch for each row end all the way up. So I'm just inserting around the stitch. Sorry, I was about to chain 1. Oh my gosh, I got so used to that stitch pattern. So as I'm looking here, I kind of have these gaps that I can very comfortably work into. So that's where I'm going. So in this row end, in that row end, little hole, big hole, little hole, big hole. So I'm going to continue this all the way across this top edge. Join me when you get down here. We'll finish up this last side together, and then I'll show you how to do an invisible join so you'll barely be able to tell where we stopped. The end is in sight, friends. Just a few more stitches here on this top edge. Now we've reached the end. We can chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work 3 stitches together over this last row here. So we're going to grab this stitch so I can see the little V's at the top. So I'm going to grab that stitch, pull up a loop, grab the next stitch, pull up a loop, and this final stitch here, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, and now we're done. At this point, we can fasten off, and I'm going to show you how to do an invisible join. So instead of joining with a slip stitch to this stitch here, which will be a little bit obvious, we're going to pull this loop up and out of our work, the loop that came out of our single crochet 3 together. Now we're going to thread that onto a tapestry needle, and we're going to find not the first but the second stitch here, because what we're going to do is create a little bit of fabric that looks like the top of this stitch, and it's gonna make that join look invisible. So I'm gonna insert my hook under the front and back loop of this next stitch here. And then I'm gonna go back and grab the back loop of this stitch that I came out of. And when I pull those, kind of shimmy it together, you can see that it now looks like a continuous set of V's right next to each other. Look at that. Beautiful. Very much invisible. So now I can pull this tail to the back and just work under a few stitches to weave it in. And there we go. Snip off the excess. Oop. And now I can go to the other side and weave in this end as well. Now that all of my ends are weaved in, I strongly recommend that you block your project. This yarn that I'm using is quite stretchy, but you can see even when I stretch this here, it makes this bottom line even more even. It makes that top line really crisp, softens up those stitches and evens everything out. Now I originally used Woolly's DK, and this wet blocks like an absolute dream. So I would recommend, if you're using any yarn with even a bit of animal fiber, some wool, alpaca, something like that, I would wet block this. If you're doing a cotton blend, maybe steam it. Acrylic, you can steam that as well. But what I encourage you to do is stretch this out to the length that you want it to be, and then extend this bottom middle section to the width that you want it to be. Because when you stretch that out, we get a nice clean edge along the bottom. Now this tutorial is applicable to all of the different projects within the Bernie Trio, but one thing is different. When we're working up the scarf version of this, instead of doing single crochets on our edge here, we're actually going to do slip stitches. So I'm going to show you what that looks like on this project to do slip stitches for your border as opposed to single crochets. Let's get to it. So here I'm working with the original yarn and also the original hook size, which was a 4.5 millimeter. I've already done most of the slip stitch border on this sample. It starts the same way. The only thing that we change is we're swapping out slip stitches for single crochets. So here I am working along my top border. And to do my slip stitch, I'm just going to insert into the next row end, yarn over my hook, pull through the loop, and then through the loop that is on my hook. Insert into the row end, pull up the loop, pull through the loop on my hook. We want to keep these slip stitches relatively loose just so we don't get any puckering or bunching here at the top of our work. So I'm just continuing to work in my slip stitches until I get to the end. So I'm getting towards the end here. And just like before, for our row ends, we're going to work 3 single crochets together. So first step is a chain 1. And then we're going to work 3 single crochets together over this end here. So pull up a loop for 1, here's 2, and 3. Yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops. And at this point, we can fasten off, pull up that loop, and once again, we can do our invisible join. But otherwise, that slip stitch edging is the only thing that separates the scarf version from the kerchief and the shawl version. So make sure you keep a close eye on your pattern, but otherwise you should be smooth sailing to make as many gorgeous Bernie scarf trios as you want to. Please make sure that you share your project over on Ravelry. We can't wait to see it. And if you enjoyed making this as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you, be sure to like this video here on YouTube and subscribe to my channel. You know, I can't wait to hang out with you a little bit more. I will see you in the next tutorial. Thanks so much for hanging. See you next time. Bye.